Maybe one day that will all sound good or whatever. But look, I just got this machine. This is a Volca drum. This is a sample, Volca sample. I've had it for maybe 6 months now. I love the crap out of you. Hey, baby. Love you. New shiny new toy. So I want to talk about what it's like to own both of these and kind of think through how I want to use them in my own setup, because this is as much for me as it is for you. I want to know, how should I understand and approach the Volca drum? How should I appreciate and love the Volca sample? So I guess the first thing I would say to compare them is to talk about this idea of playability. Playability, in my opinion, is this unique ability for something to be played easily and intuitively and instinctively and enjoyably. So let me give you an example. When I first got the Volca sample, it was my first Volca ever, and that day, I mean, I was making beats, like all the live long day with just the standard stock sounds. And it was so much fun, and I really enjoyed it. It was gratifying right from the very beginning. I later got the Volca bass and the Volca keys and FM. Those ones I had to work into. That had to take a little bit of time. But when I got the Volca drum, it was like day one again. Like immediately I was making things and enjoying it and just really feeling the gratification of making something that sounds good right away. So that's what I mean by playability. I think that they are equally playable. I think they're fantastic machines. And if you're looking for percussion in your little Volca kit, either of these would be great. But we're going to dissect why one or the other, or what benefits does one have over the other. That's what this video is about. So it's for you to decide, for me to digest. Like I'm just like thinking about these things. So first we want to talk about the sounds. What does it sound like? So obviously that kick drum sounds a lot different than that kick drum. And what we have on the Volca drum are synthesized drum sounds. This is a synthesizer, and the tools and things inside, like the modulation and the envelopes that it generates, the sources, the sines and the sawtooths and the noise, they have a place in percussion synthesis, and they're organized to give you basses like that, snares like that, and little whatever that is like that. So it's, yeah, tons of fun. And it's fun to get into the controls and mess with it and make something from scratch, make something from new. And then also, if you're like, oh, I don't know about that, I don't know what that is, you can go over here to function, randomize layer, and I have selected layer 1 and 2. You go randomize layer, and now we have, oh my gosh, a whole new sound, which I wish there was an undo on here, because that's just horrible. Okay, so it's really cool. The sounds can be very, very strong, like this. What a sound! Oh my life! And they can also be very subtle, like this, or like that. Look how subtle that is. So they can be everywhere, but they're always going to feel synthesized. You know, a little bit metallic, maybe. I don't know what it is, but they feel very, like that. So they do have a limited range of the sound. There's like a very, very specific sonic fingerprint. And also one of the limitations is there's about 6 drum sounds in each kit. Okay, so that's the sounds. These are the sounds that this thing will make. Let's talk about the sounds that this can make. So this is not a sound generator. It's kind of like a player. It's a sample sequencer is how I talk about it. Each of these first 10 steps can be a sound. There's a very long sound or a very short sound. And that's kind of like whatever you stick on it, that's what it will sound like. So it's not restricted to that same idea of a sonic fingerprint. These always sound like drums or pads or whatever. You can get a lot from it, but it will still always sound like it's coming from it. Whereas the sounds here are just samples taken from anywhere. They can sound synthesized if that's what the sample is. They could sound like a recording of an analog thing happening. One time I used a set of chains being dropped or coins being dropped or something for for a crash cymbal. And it was so much fun. You can just do stuff like that. This one also has 10 sample slots. So a lot more sounds in a pattern can come out of this. A lot more variety. And one of the cool things is it's easy to switch the sample that you're using out on the pad mid-song. And I've done that a number of times. Oftentimes when I have some type of vocal, I can switch and then go into something else. Actually, I only have one vocal loaded on right now, but oftentimes I'll do that if I have the narrator in the story telling us something. They'll probably always be on pad 1, and I'll just be switching throughout the song, like numbering up. Okay, I already played 10. After they get done and playing a few more beats, switch to 11, and then hit it again. I do that quite often. So it's quite a nice way to have even more sounds in one song, the ability to switch right in the middle of the song. Okay, another thing about it is that there's only 4 megabytes of memory on this thing. The reason I only have one vocal sample here, is because there's only 4 megabytes of memory on here, and I have like this 8-bar lyric. So I can only fit like 12 sounds on this whole darn box. This is a serious limitation of the vocal sample. Sometimes you have to work around it. I do a lot to pre-process and crunch my samples and downsample, and it's horrible, but they're like horrible quality sounds on this thing, which kind of, I don't know, depends on the aesthetic that you're looking for. Can be you can work with it. Anyway, so those are the sounds. That's the sounds. Next, we're going to talk about the effects. There's a lot of sound design on the Volca drum, and these things you can change the modulation, envelope, the source, and the pitch, and there's also other things like the bit. There's a bit crusher in there. There's a wave folder, a gain, a distortion. Is that right? A panning. Those are all edits, right? So when you're making a sound here, and then you change the pitch, you're not putting an effect on it. You're changing what the sound of the thing is, right? This waveguide is kind of the only effect on this thing, and the waveguide is pretty cool. It's like if you send, if I use this send knob here and send information to the waveguide, it's kind of like a delay / other thing. Yeah. It's pretty weird. And it has 2 modes. Right now it's on string mode. If I hit function number 11, it turns into tube mode. So it just sounds a little bit different. Similar. I love that. If it goes low enough, it becomes a weird delay. Anyway, yes, but that's kind of it. There's the sound design, which is really robust. But again, it always sounds like it's from the Volca drum. And then there's the waveguide, which is like the only effect. The Volca sample, on the other hand, has a lot more effects. So for example, here's a snare drum. I could tell it to be reversed, which can be cool. You can also loop things. So let me put this little guy in a loop. And then you can cut the loop off with a decay, so it can only last a short time, but it's still looping. I use that often to do like a hi-hat that's like a or triple or something like that, like a little bit of a lazy beat. Anyway, here's a high cut. These are kind of effects, and the reason I think of them as effects is because they don't change the sound. If you bring everything back to 0, which is fairly easy to do, it'll still sound like itself. But with the drum, when you're editing the effects, you can change it back to 0. That's fine. But if you change the sound of it, it's hard to find that other pitch thing unless you memorize the number. It's like 1 to 255, like whatever. But there's no way. Anyway, so there's also these things in the gray box are they're the parameters of each individual step, but there's also these analog isolators, which basically are very quick EQ. A lot of people use the sample, use these, especially this little knobby right here to do drops. Watch this. And then you maybe go into step jump. messing that up. Point is, analog isolators are really great filters. There's also a pretty cool reverb that you can just send on anything, and then it's a universal send. So you can choose. Let me see. Like these three would be to reverb, and then all get impacted when I turn up the reverb knob. So that's a tour of. I can turn those things on. I don't need a reverb on these guys. That's a tour of the effects on both of these machines. Now let's talk about maybe the big difference between the two of them and the one that makes me really, really excited about this machine right here. And that is the sequencer, this part. So first, let's talk about a few cool things, unique things that are here with the Volca drum that just have never been invented before on any of the Volcas. And then we'll do like a little bit of comparison about some of the things that are similar and different. So first of all, let me just, oh my life. Jeez, load a new kit. That's wow. So we'll just get started by, let me just put a bunch of hi-hats on. Okay, and then one of the features is an accent. So I can do an accent here. A little bit of more human kind of like a feel, even though it definitely sounds like a robot. And then also there's like this slice idea. So if I slice, do you hear that? This one has, you can hold it and turn up the slices. 10 slices. How about 4, 3? Okay, look at that. Perfect. Okay, so that's one feature. What's another feature? Oh yeah, slice and accent. That's right. Oh, here's another one. This one's cool. Let's go into that snare that I put down and edit the steps. And let's add another one right here. But this one was turned down the probability. So this is how this one has a likelihood of about 33% of showing up. See how it skipped that one? Probably skip again, yeah. So that's another cool thing. If you add probability to each of these steps that you put down, particularly like a crash or a hi-hat or, I mean, just anything really, it can make the single 16 steps that you're looping through feel a lot longer because there's a little bit of unpredictability in there, and that's just so cool. Let's do another one, but this one I want to show you is step jump. So I'm just going to load a new load a program. All right, I got a program running here, and then this feature is called step jump. It's also on the Volca sample, but they've greatly improved it. Here's what it does. Basically, if you hold a number, it'll keep hitting that one step. If you hold a group, it'll hit a few of them. But when you let go, it goes back to number 1. See, that's really, really exciting. It's fun to do, especially like on the Volca sample, because I only need one hand to do that. I can do other things with my other hand. Here on the Volca, what is this called? Sample. You need, let's say, go into step jump. When you hold your finger on there, when you let go, it starts on the next step. So you need to set it back manually. I don't know if I'm doing such a great job right there, but it's kind of difficult actually. The other thing that the Volca sample has going for it is this idea of song mode. So if I go to memory S1, you see something else happening here. These 4 steps are lit up, and each one corresponds to a memory slot, like a pattern that was saved in 1 through 10. So 1 through 10 are patterns, and S1 through S6 are songs, which are groups of patterns. The patterns in S1 are 4, 5, 4, and 6. So what's great about that is that you can reuse 4 twice. That's fantastic. That's a great way to kind of be very smart with how you use your patterns and not have to reuse too many or redo many in new slots just to have that extra space. Whereas when I go to load a program in Volca drum, I have to, if I want to do a number of patterns, I have to chain them like that. Which means that if I want to repeat 2, I can't. I have to copy it to 5 and then repeat it there. So I guess that's the thing. I mean, it's a lot faster to start them. Songs take a little bit of time to organize and think through. I usually have to write it down on a piece of paper. But yeah, anyway, here's chaining and here's songs. So it's similar function, similar outcome, but different approach. And I kind of like the song approach better because you can be smarter about your reusability of patterns, but also you can just be a little bit more thoughtful about how that works. I guess you'll have to use them to really understand what I'm talking about. The other thing that's weird about the Volca drum is that the relationship to kits and programs are very strange. You save kits separately. Kits are the sounds, and programs are the patterns, but the programs are also associated to kits. It's very strange, and again, whatever. The other thing about it is that also the LCD is super weak, so I like to play outdoors, and whenever I go outdoors, I'm like, I'm trying to block the sunlight. What does that say? You probably can't even see it on this video. Yeah, I just looked at the LCD up there. You can't see it. Whatever. People like this LCD. I mean, it looks nice in the dark, but it's not very bright. This big dumb one's way easier to use. Hey, this one looks awesome. Look at. I want to talk a little bit about the aesthetics. I'm a designer in real life, so I pay attention to this stuff. This one is modeled visually hinting, kind of like a homage to the great samplers of the era, the MPCs, and that using that color scheme and the organization of it. This, I don't know what the heck this thing is. It's so weird and ugly. The black and arrow hitting into the bronze with the 3 little knobs with the circles all around. It's really stupid looking. Like, it looks cool, kind of like to a 6th grader, like my son was like, hey, that's a cool one. But I don't know, my design education makes me appreciate this one a lot more. So yeah, okay, so here are the closing thoughts. Both of them are extremely playable, and just super fun. This one sounds like a synth drum, and it will always sound like a synth drum, even when it's in a pad or when you turn it into like a melody synth or whatever, which is cool. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's always going to sound like a synthesized sound. This is going to be a sampler. You can put anything on it as long as it's within that really small, narrow capacity of 4 megabytes. But the truth is, and this may change over time because I just got this one, but I'm going to go traveling soon. What am I going to take between these two? I'm always going to take the sample because it can be anything. And also the tools in it, like the effects and everything, are such that, I don't know, it feels like it can do a lot more. Like, this is a really cool effect, but it always sounds like this always sounds like the wave guide from the drum. That's what it always sounds like. Whereas I could use the looper here in a lot of different ways. I could turn it into a melody of another thing. I could make it be a triplet of a hi-hat. I can make it make a melody loop through on a number of bars. There's this infinite looping technique that I'll show you or have shown you in other videos. But anyway, I think this is a more versatile instrument. I think that it looks better. I just like using it. This is so much fun. You're both fun. I love you both, but I'm taking you with me, baby. All right, that's it for the comparison of the Volca sample and the Volca drum. Leave a like and the subscribe and all that good stuff, and we'll see you in the next video when I'm probably not going to be talking nearly as much. Good night.